Hi everyone, and welcome back to Movies Recap. Today we're recapping the murder drama 3096 Days. Based on a true story, the movie opens out with Natascha Kampusch skiing down a mountain, seemingly alone with her thoughts. She comes to a stop at the bottom of the slope, where a group of skiers passes her by, revealing she's in fact not alone. A man stops next to her and their eyes meet for a second. He seems to comprehend the expression she's giving him and brings her to the bathroom, where he first checks for other inhabitants. Seems like nobody's there, so he allows Natascha inside as he waits at the door. Natascha is in her stall when she hears another woman enter the bathroom that the man did not first see. She hurries to get dressed and hesitantly follows her to the sinks, looking to make sure the man wasn't watching. She approaches the woman and requests for help, revealing her name Natascha Kampusch. Flashback: a younger Natascha is dancing in the bar with her father. Her father seems to be very intoxicated and proposes a toast with his buddies. The night continues on and Natascha is seen strolling outside the bar alone. She tries to remind her father that it's becoming late and that her mother would worry, but he laughs it off, vowing to go shortly. Natascha wakes up the next day with her mother yelling at her to get up. Her mother begs her to put on the dress that she sewed for, but Natascha is convinced that it makes her seem obese. Her mother simply instructs her to not eat so many biscuits, demonstrating a non-empathic relationship between the two. Natascha puts on the dress. Natascha's mother's yelling at her to hurry, claiming that she'll be late to work. Natascha mopes to the table, indicating that she's exhausted. After staring at her for a second, her mother confronts her about her dad taking her to the pub. She frustratingly asserts that the bar is no place for youngsters. She threatens Natascha that if her father takes her home late one more time, she will not be permitted to see him again. Natascha tries to resist, but her mother strikes her in response. Stunned, Natascha slowly walks away without a word. Leaving for school, her mother tries to apologize, but Natascha continues to walk away. On the way to school, Natascha is strolling alone. Some kids play at a park, but she walks straight by them. As she walks down the street, a man rushes out of a white van and forces her into the automobile. Natascha screams for rescue, but nobody's there to listen. He punches her, knocking her unconscious. Before we continue on, like the video, press the subscribe button and switch on that notification bell to join our expendable squad. Another little girl is across the street, startled at what she just witnessed. The man takes Natascha to his guarded home, where he brings her to a small room with only a sink and a toilet. He locks the room behind him and crawls out of the hole in the wall where he's concealed her. Then he seals the wall as well as the basement that the room looks to be in. Natascha wakes up in the little room, unsure about her location. She tries to shout out for aid through the door, but there's no one there. She stares at a small vent in the room that offers her air before giving up. The man returns to the room with a mattress, food, and water. She tells him she wants to see her mom, but he ignores her and shuts the door on her. Natascha attempts shouting for aid via the vent in the room, but nobody could hear her. Eventually it gets late and she gets ready for bed. The light cuts off and she feels in the dark, calling for her mom. It's day 3 and the man is wondering what he's done. He goes about his day as he hadn't kidnapped a tiny girl. The man, Wolfgang, reads a novel to Natascha about the princess and the pea. She stays in her corner, nibbling cookies and listening to the story. When the narrative ends, he plugs in the nightlight and starts to go, but Natascha stops him. She requests for a goodnight kiss, just like her mother used to give her. He stops for a second, then obliges, kissing her goodnight. Elsewhere, Natascha's mother and grandmother are watching the news about their lost child. The news reporter states that Natascha's mother has lost all hope, to which she objects. The two sit anxiously together, expecting to get word about their missing little girl. In the basement, Natascha's going back and forth ceaselessly, attempting to cope with her ennui. She loses track of time and wonders what day it is before the lights shut off, signaling it's time for bed. Wolfgang's mother walks through his kitchen, counting off goods that should feed him for the week. She tries to give him advice as to what he should manufacture, but he merely impishly tries to play around with her. She doesn't catch on to his terrible jokes, and the two had an awkward encounter, showing that his relationship with his mother is similar to Natascha and hers. Later that night, the two watch the news together. It's about Natascha's disappearance and how she was likely stolen on her route to school. His mother makes a nasty remark about how she's certainly being abused. He remarks that perhaps the kidnapper is just nuts. One day, Wolfgang is shampooing Natascha's hair when she hands him a letter to mail out to her parents, and he takes it. She then looks to use too much shampoo for his liking because he complains that it's too pricey. In answer, she suggests to just let her go. The two engage into a back-and-forth fight because nobody wants her and that her parents aren't paying the ransom for her back. The fight develops to the point that he's dunking her head in water. Mercilessly, he yells at her that he can't stand tears and abruptly leaves the room, leaving her soaked and crying to clean up the mess herself. One evening, Wolfgang's in the backyard, having beverages with his mother and grandmother. When the cops come knocking, they ask to inspect his van and Wolfgang sheepishly complies. He asks them whether this is about the missing girl, And they respond yes. They have looked at a lot of identical white vans to no success. Wolfgang's vehicle is now stuffed with tools and work equipment, as he claims that he used to work in telecommunication. Wolfgang continues to make small chat with the officers while one of them steps over to the secret basement where he keeps Natascha. The two asks where he was on the date of Natascha's disappearance, and he answers that he was home alone. They continue to press him with questions. He replies, but swiftly changes the subject. Offering them alcohol, they decline and insist that they must depart. Natascha dreams about better and happier times with her parents. She'd dress up like her parents, enthusiastically laughed and took pictures of her. She's woken up by Wolfgang with breakfast. She requests a clock so that she can get a feeling of time again. He agrees. He also installs an intercom that would allow him to talk with her when he's upstairs. While he's installing new items, she questions him about the note she handed him. She asks if he sent it out like she wanted, to which he lies and tells her yes. Later, he rips up the letter. It's day 183. Out of boredom, she pretends to educate her old clothes like they're in school. She also writes on the walls and pretends to interview her clothes. When she's interrupted by Wolfgang on the intercom, he asks her if she brushed her teeth and rinsed off her dish. She lies and tells him yes. He demands that she has to obey him and repeat the words "obey me" over and again on the intercom. Later, when he comes down with food for her, she tries to trick him with a false injury. He doesn't buy it, and he tells her that if she's going to toy with her food, she won't get any because she's too fat anyhow. She attempts to fight him, but he raises her up to the vent that she's been ranting at. He assures her that it leads to the roof and that nobody would be able to hear her through it. He also showed her the vault door that he's created to keep her in, informing her that there's no way out. She tries to make a dash for it, but he immediately stops her and throws her back into the room, destroying her hopes. Natascha seemed to accept her situation and lives her days out, reading to her handmade dolls and lounging about. It's been 4 days since she last ate and she begs Wolfgang for food. She tries to act nice and beg for food, then snaps and aggressively pounds on the intercom, stating she'll eat anything. On the other side, Wolfgang is listening to her appeal and just answers with the words "obey me" over and over again. 4 years later, Wolfgang still continues to speak the same words "obey me" over the intercom. Natascha wakes up from her slumber and asks him for food. He starves her often. And this time it's been 3 days since she last ate and she's gotten terribly underweight. She pleads him, but he doesn't care. To distract her from her hunger, she digs among the rubbish and reads. Her room's a lot more cluttered now, with a bunk bed and a small heater and a table in the corner. She's running out of space. Day 1695. She's reading a book when her menstruation begins. Wolfgang comes in requesting her to sew some of his outfits, but doesn't react well. When he finds out that her period has begun, he's disgusted and urges her to clean it up, but she cannot with just the materials that she has in the room. She asks him to use the shower upstairs and he hesitantly agrees. When she comes out of her room for the first time, she's in awe at the sunlight shining into the basement. He tells her not to try anything since he's lined the windows and doors with explosives. If she tries anything, seeing everything for the first time slightly overwhelms her, but she swears to do as she's told. She's escorted to the bathroom, where she must shower with him observing. One day, Wolfgang's mom is taking care of him again. She loads his dishwasher and tells him to do the dishes. He accepts and takes her out, but she stops at the door and asks him if he has a girlfriend. Confused, he denies any relationship. She takes a single blonde hair from his shirt and tells him that Grandma was beginning to worry that he was gay. A little agitated, he assures her that he's straight. She cries deeply and the two hang out upstairs in the kitchen together. Day 1837. It's Christmas now and Natascha has a radio in her room to listen to. She has a tree and improvised decorations. She listens to music and wraps a present. Wolfgang comes down with dinner, a camera and a gift. For her, it's a Walkman, so that she may listen to music in the dark, as well as a number of books for her to read. She tries to give him a hug, but he refuses and orders her to stop. In light of the holidays, she asks him if she may know where her family is. This hurts him and he informs her that he is her family. Now, because of this, he gives her an entirely new name. She'll now be named Bibi, and for the first time he presents himself to her as Wolfgang. Elsewhere, Natascha's mother and grandma are together for the holidays. Her grandma still sends her a gift every Christmas, and the two wonder if Natascha would enjoy the pink sweater. Her mother breaks down into tears, recalling about the day Natascha was taken. Natascha and Wolfgang are undertaking construction on his house and pull down a wall for a new room. When she thinks that it's for his girlfriend, he aggressively hits a bag of cement and covers her in dust, but it doesn't faze her. He tells her that she's sleeping with him tonight. That night, he zip ties their hands together and the two share the same bed. As life goes on, Wolfgang seems to grow more comfortable with her. He goes to the convenience store and begins purchasing her tampons as well as condoms for himself. Later, he's in a club with his friends when he begins to dance with a girl. and while initially being into it, he feels uncomfortable and exits. Later that night, he takes advantage of Natascha and forces himself on her. Afterwards, she asks him to go to the garden and he lets it. After a brief time in the yard, he forces her back into her room, dissatisfied with himself. Day 2029. Natascha's hair has grown out and Wolfgang has her doing tasks like cooking for him. But she's not doing it to his satisfaction and takes out his irritation on her by striking her and withholding her meals. A starving Natascha hurriedly tries to consume some food out of desperation, but Wolfgang stops her and compels her to vomit it out. In the coming days, he grows crueler and pulls terrible jokes on her, including locking her in a dark hole. Wolfgang ultimately takes her out to run errands with him. He lies to her and tells her that he has a gun and will kill anybody if she does anything when out in public for the first time in years. Natascha stares at the normal people living their life oblivious of her condition. While in a store, there's a little time that he leaves her alone, but she doesn't run. The words "obey me" echo through her thoughts, and she can't bring herself to ask for help. Day 2175. The room him and Natascha have been working on has now been ready. Despite being the one doing most of the work, she seems shocked anyway when he shows it to her. His mom also enjoys the place, and the two enjoy cocktails at his beautiful new bar in the garden. In her room, Natascha is listening to the radio when the announcer talks about how it's been 6 years since her absence. Wolfgang leads her to her new suite and labels it the Aphrodite suite. He makes her put on lingerie, stating it's their wedding day. She asks him why he chose her, and he tells her about the day they locked eyes at a convenience shop when she was very little. He tells her about how he patiently created the secret room from start, just for her, and then begins to get sexual with her. Later, Natascha starts a fire in her room, expecting to commit herself, but the smoke is too much for her to handle and she puts it out. She tries to clean up the room to cover up the smell of the smoke, but it doesn't work. He then beats her out of fury, telling her that she's not permitted to kill herself. Her response is that if she's not permitted to depart, one of them must die. She later writes down how he beat her on some toilet paper and puts it in a box. Cut to the scene at the beginning of the movie. Wolfgang is trying to teach her to ski, but her legs are too weak to retain her balance, similar to the opening of the movie. He stands watch at the door as she approaches a woman for help. Unfortunately, the woman doesn't understand English and walks away oblivious of the issue. Later, Wolfgang asks her about it and she lies, telling him nothing occurred. He doesn't believe her and continues to attack her. She adds the beating to her box of records that is already full of papers from the times he hit her. Day 2908. It's Natascha's 18th birthday. He brings her a cake in the shape of a number 18, as well as a dress that she puts on right immediately. The two of them dance to some music while Wolfgang tries to teach her. One day, the two are working on the garden together when the neighbor spots them over a hedge. They share an uneasy hello, but nothing comes out of it. The two have lunch together, and unlike before, she manages to accomplish everything without upsetting them. The two have begun to settle down with one another. One day, Natascha is assigned with cleaning the vehicle, and the two of them work together to clean the van. While she vacuums the interior, she takes a note of the gate being open. Wolfgang has lowered his guard with her and leaves her alone to take a phone call. She uses the opportunity to make a dash for it. Wolfgang comes back, but he's too late. She's gone. After running for aid, she meets an older lady working on her garden and begs for help. It's day 3096, and the police come by to finally take her home. Wolfgang commits himself by laying down in front of a train. And Natascha meets her parents again for the first time since she was stolen, and hugs them emotionally. The paparazzi, he's outside, waiting for her triumphal return to the world. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Turn on notifications to stay updated, and thanks for your support.